Goeiemorgen, Molweni. It's 2 minutes after 9. I would love to start ASAP. I hope all of you, before I say the welcomes and things like that, I hope you do have copies of the bill. At the entrance in front, if you don't have a copy of the bill, please go and fetch one quickly. There's 2 sets right on the outside. Oh yes, not on the outside, on the inside as well, but make sure you have a copy. I immediately want to apologize for the humidity inside this room. Our technicians are working with that. We experienced all weekend some problems, unfortunately. And let me then officially welcome all of you. Thank you for your interest in the bill. Thank you for your presence. We appreciate that. It's very important for government to engage interest groups, to engage its partners, to engage NGOs, NPOs, CBOs, etc. And we did receive some calls and that sort of things, but I will explain the processes further now. But it's important for us to deliberate and to give input. And let me, while I'm saying welcome to you guys, let me ask the members, the honourable members of the Provincial Parliament, members of the Social Development Standing Committee, just to briefly introduce themselves. My name is Dan Plato. I'm the chairperson of the Social Development Standing Committee, and the other members present, please do that.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, honourable members and all stakeholders this morning. My name is Wendy Kaiser Philander, and I'm a permanent member of the Standing Committee.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, officials. Good morning, everybody, stakeholders. My name is Christopher Fry. I'm a permanent member of this committee. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rachel van Vogel.
May I ask any other officials from national government, please, to introduce themselves?
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Greetings to honourable members, colleagues, and also members of the public, and most importantly, our VVIPs, the children in the house. Good morning. My name is Nelly Cekiso. I am the Acting Chief Director for Child Protection at the National Department of Social Development. Thank you.
Thank you. And our provincial officials, please.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, everybody. I am Najwa Talib, and I'm the Provincial Manager for Foster Care at the Provincial Department of Social Development. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Lionel van der Skeef, Department of the Premier Legal Services. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And could we start from that side? Your entity you represent, your name, surname, entity, who you are, etc., and we go around. Lady with you first. The red, the white button you need to press. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Cindy Lee van Andel. I'm a residential care social worker at Christine Rebel Children's Home in Athlone.
Thank you.
Good morning, committee. Damaris Kiewicz.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Andre Yokas.
Thank you.
I'm from Delft, South Suburban.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Mbali Potter, and I'm from Delft.
Thank you.
Okay, good morning. I'm Patrick Solomon from Molosongololo, and they with me, and there'll be some, I think, 4 or 6 other young people coming. More wanted to come, but unfortunately, because of the violence in our community, some of them were held back this morning.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Joanne Muller. I'm from the Mitchell's Plain Advice Office, a paralegal.
Thank you.
Morning, everybody. My name is Shamima Benjamin. I'm from the Mitchell's Plain Advice Office and I do gender-based violence counseling from the office.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Graham Cairns and I'm the director at St. George's Home for Girls in Wynberg.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Natsai Chakapfava. I'm from Ilita Labandu, an NPO based in Guguletu, fighting gender-based violence.
Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. I am Valerie Moses, Rocklands Neighborhood Watch, fighting crime on the highest. Especially where children are concerned, we also try to keep the children in school, especially where they leave during the morning hours and they don't go back to school, and children are just lingering all over the places in Mitchell's Plain.
Thank you.
Good morning, honourable members and our colleagues from Department of Social Development. My name is Betty Nieuwoud. I'm the director of Stel Cares, a family services organisation and child protection based in Stellenbosch.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Rosalind Swartz, Human Rights Violation Program, UN Embassy. I'm dealing with children, local, provincial, national, and global. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good morning, I'm Renelle Fritz, supervisor at Stel Care Stellenbosch, and standing in for my colleague for Kayamandi.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Charmaine Haggard. I am a supervisor at Esterrefuur, also for Stel Care Organisation.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that introduction. And may I just ask you, please, there's an attendance register going around. Please fill it in. It's very important for us to make sure who's present and the audience we address. That's so, so important. May I ask the other officials, the lady next to me also, to introduce herself?
Good morning. My name is Nomanda Jamke, Procedure Officer for Standing Committee on Social Development and Health.
Thank you. And I want to make an apology from my side, myself. I took off my jacket already. You can feel the heat in here. Our technicians is working on that, and I deeply apologize for that. But there's no way with this heat I can keep my jacket on, unfortunately. But thank you for the understanding. The purpose of the meeting is to conduct a public hearing on the Children's Amendment Bill. And I think all of you have read lots of the bill in the newspapers, online. You understand the contents of the bill, but it's also important for government to conduct, as I've said earlier, public hearings and to talk to our partners and other interested groupings and people outside, and to give them the opportunity to officially give their input. The bill was referred to the Standing Committee on Social Development by the Speaker of the Legislature on Wednesday, 7th of September 2022. And on Wednesday, the 21st of September 2022, the committee was briefed by the National Department of Social Development on the bill. And it's important for me to give you that information so that you can see and follow the process we have taken already. In terms of the public participation process on the bill was advertised in the mainstream newspapers. I made that point already, and community papers in 3 official languages to reach stakeholders from different communities. Addition to this, the notice for all the public hearings was emailed to municipalities as well for their input, and to as many NGOs for their input as well. We want to reach the maximum of our people out there, our interested people. The committee is complying, and I think this is important. Not complying, we must comply. I think I need to put that with Section 118 of the Constitution and Standing Rule 72 of the Provincial Parliament Standing Rules, which says the Provincial Parliament must, and that is why I have used the word must, facilitate public involvement in the processes of its committees as required by the Constitution. And on that note, I am going to ask our national parliament or national government representative just to give their brief overview of the contents of the bill. I will ask provincial officials to do the same, and then we will ask the public to give their input as well, as far as possible. And we will also allow for some questions and an answer session into the bill as well. I also want to advise that we will go to Worcester, we will go to George, we will go to Cullen. We reach out to some other areas in the province as well. But there's a cutoff date, even if you don't receive satisfaction or there's other issues pertaining to the bill you want to give input to. The 21st of October is our cutoff date for receiving of other comments onto the bill as well. So today is definitely not the last. You will have ample time. I even advise other groupings that phoned already. I said to them, and they said, if they are not satisfied, could they attend other hearings? And I advised them the nearest one is Caledon, the other nearest one is Worcester. Caledon, Worcester is a 1.5 hour drive from Cape Town. You are most welcome to attend, but you are also most welcome to make written submissions up to the 21st of October. So the door is open for you to do whatever you need to do. And lady, it's all yours. Let us first give the members of the public the opportunity to enter. You may.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. One of the things that concerned us and many other NGOs was the time of notice period. We received the notice on the 3rd of October, and then a week later, this first hearing started. Now, many organizations expressed, and we ourselves have found it difficult to consult with our members, consult with the young people about the bill and get them to make sure that they understand it and they can make informed decisions. So I just want to know what exactly is the policy and time frame with regard to that, because we do find it very, very challenging. And as you are aware, that to organize children and young people, you actually need extra time and extra resources. So we find that such limitation on the notice to inform us actually violates our rights and the rights of children themselves to participate, because they never have enough time to engage with the content of the bill and therefore come prepared and make their contribution.
Look, as I've indicated a minute or two ago, you will have time to consult and give input up to the 21st of October. Unfortunately, we need to conform and fit in with our national counterparts' timeframes as well. And that is exactly what we are doing. The time frame is very tight, but that's why we are saying people don't need only to rely on the public hearing processes. They can also make written submissions, and that will give you ample time to reach us with your necessary comments you need to make. I hope that answers your question, but unfortunately, the tight time frame, look, it's not really provincial government's time frame. We need to fit in what we receive from national, unfortunately. And as you're aware, there was court hearings and court decisions as well, and that makes the time frame very tight. We need to fit in with a court ruling as well. We can't do otherwise. We just have to make it work. If circumstances were different, we could have provided for a much lengthier time frame, but I want to apologize for the tight time frame. But notwithstanding that, we had to change our parliamentary program. I can give you that information as well to fit this in. We must talk to the public, and we had to make it work. We had to juggle our programs, and you must also remember we are busy with public hearings, and that was difficult to sit with the chief whip and to say to the Chief Whip, change the public hearing date to that date, because, and some of us, myself, I will miss some of the public hearing actually of the annual report processes, because it's so important to do justice to this bill as well, and to do justice to the public hearings. Unfortunately, I hope you understand. May I give to the lady, please?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I will also invite my provincial counterparts from DSD to also share their bit, as you've indicated, Chair. But I think just to highlight to Mr. Patrick Solomons, that your concern, especially the consultation, as the chairperson has indicated, you will still have time to do that. But I also need to indicate that this is what we call a short bill that is really receiving pressure from the North Gauteng High Court because of the foster care orders that we know the history of, that, you know, from 2010, we've been having challenges with the foster care orders that are lapsing. Therefore, the minister was required to develop a comprehensive legal solution to address foster care challenges. So this short bill, it's actually emanating from the bigger bill that was started some time ago, which is 146 clauses. And I think that's where even further consultations will take place when that a bill, which is basically the rest of the clauses, because the clauses that we are focusing on now, it is the 16 clauses. But just to be clear, it's 12 clauses. The remaining clauses are consequential, you know, amendments based on these 12 clauses that have been brought on. So we are basically pressurized by the court because the current court order that we have, it is expiring in November. So by end of November, this bill, you know, it must be finalized. And hence we had to look at what clauses have got direct impact on foster care program. I will quickly, without following the presentation, because I believe people do have the bill in front of you, so I will just highlight these key clauses that have got a direct impact on foster care program. In clause 1, one of the things that we identified is that we've got different definitions that are key in foster care. One of those definitions, it's abandoned child. What do we mean by abandoned child? Cluster foster care scheme, what we mean by that? The orphan, the social service practitioners. We are not saying other definitions are not important. They are part of the 146. But for the foster care program, we extracted these key definitions. For instance, when we talk about the orphan child, the abandoned child, whom we know that as the country we are confronted with children that are abandoned. And how then do we deal with this in relation to foster care? That's what we are trying to address through this bill. Same goes for cluster foster care scheme. We are saying that we need to simplify this process by really unpacking what the cluster foster care scheme should look like. We've got regulations which we will further be consulted. Because these cluster foster care schemes, we've been having challenges with them. So the regulations that we are having them in place as in a draft format are waiting for this bill to be passed so that we can really now focus on the regulations. And another important aspect of this bill is the definition of an orphan. We know that we are confronted with a number of orphans in the country, and those orphaned children are mostly in the care of family members. And when you look cross-referencing this orphan definition to our section 150, which now we have amended, because we are saying that orphaned children who are in the care of relatives are not necessarily in need of care and protection. Those children, they need to be channeled into other basket of services that we have, so that we do not unnecessarily clog the foster care system by having orphaned children who are in the care of relatives. And of course, we are not saying that family members cannot abuse children. Hence, we are saying that orphan children need to be linked with the child protection system, like your Resiha program, your drop-in centers, so that they can be identified should they be in need of care and protection, and be then placed in foster care after a thorough assessment, but not automatically that you take that orphan child and put that child into foster care, because it has resulted to the challenges that we have now as the country. Perhaps you might be having a question to say, how then do we ensure that we give a proper support? What kind of comprehensive basket of services are we offering to this orphan child? That's where we have now implemented a top-up grant, which is 720. It's basically your ordinary child support grant with an additional top-up, which gives now the 720. And we're saying that when relatives are caring for orphan children, such relatives, aunt, uncle, whoever is caring for that child could actually approach SASSA offices with the necessary documentation. In the country, we've been going around explaining what the top-up grant is all about and how do you access that. And it does not require one to go to the social worker to get a report to access the top-up grant. As long as you are caring for an orphan child, you go and get that grant from SASSA. Another important provision, a clause that we have brought into this bill as part of comprehensive legal solution, it's devolving the issue of guardianship from High Court into Children's Court, because we understand that Neliswa, as an aunt, as a interested person to care for this child, and I've got means to care for this child, instead of really having to go to High Court, I can actually go to the Children's Court and apply to be a guardian to this child, so that I can provide to the needs of this child, because we know that a foster parent is not a guardian. So guardianship has been devolved, and it also makes lives for grannies, uncles, aunts that are taking care of their children that have been orphaned by their parents into, this provision of clause 2, which is the amendment of section 24. And also clause 3 is also aligned to that. But I also want to indicate that one of the areas that we thought it's important that we strengthen when we speak about the foster care program, it is the clause 4, which talks about amending the section 105 of the Principal Act, because we said that we have noted that there is a problem around the quality of services that are received by the public. Therefore, we must make sure that as the department, we conduct what we call quality assurance process for the child protection services, because we don't want our communities to receive substandard services. So that quality assurance will make sure that the child protection services that are delivered are of quality standard. Same goes the child protection organizations that are rendering these services are also doing a quality work, so that we really provide a comprehensive service. The other important aspect which I need to share with the public, Honorable Chair, is that we have been receiving complaints as part of challenges for not dealing with foster care program in its totality. You know, the social workers, you know, child and youth care workers, social auxiliary workers would actually say that we have challenges of resources. So we are saying that in clause 5, we must ensure that child care and protection units are established within provinces, and these must be resourced, fully resourced, so that all these gaps of the shortage of staff, shortage of tools of the trade, you know, all those issues must be the issues of the past. They need to be dealt with. So within, you know, the provincial coffers, of course, there needs to be that provision of establishing the child care and protection units. And then I spoke on the definition of orphan when I was dealing with clause 1. So the clause 6 that we have here, now we're saying that if there is an abandoned or orphan child who has no family member and who's unable, we're saying that an abandoned or orphan child and has no family member who is able and suitable to care for that child will be a child in need of care and protection. Underline the word, we said has no family member and who is able and suitable, because we are basically saying that we understand that family members might be unable and unsuitable, even if they are present. So it takes us back to our social work assessment processes to say, when we come across this orphan child, we have to look, does this child have no family member who's able and suitable to care for this child? Or is this child having a family member that is able and suitable? Therefore, if there's a family member, the family member is able and suitable, that child won't be in need of care and protection. But if no family member is available, then it's a child that needs to go to our different options, which is foster placement, a child and youth care centers, or even adoption, because we're saying that we must create permanency in the space of this child by giving those adoption services. So we have also added, you know, that an unaccompanied child from another country, victim of trafficking, you know, children that are sold by a parent or caregiver, because it does happen. You know, sometimes, Honorable Chair, we even see children begging with people along the street. We don't even know whether those are biological parents, or because now we're hearing that there is even leasing of children. That's how exploited our children are. And in terms of clause 7, we just highlighting some important time frames there, because we're saying that one actually has 90 days to conduct assessment, but we're saying that when it comes to issues of adjournment, taking into consideration of the fact that when you are placing a child and you have to submit the report to court, there are quite a number of requirements, such as your unabridged birth certificate and proof of advertisement to say this child really has been shared out there, that this child is abandoned and there's no one that is claiming that child. So we said, let's increase the 14 into 30 days to allow for the advertisement, including the issues of adverts, which we also took into consideration, because when we received social work reports in terms of progress in implementing foster care program, they would say we've got challenges in terms of receiving an abridged birth certificate on time, also the issues of adverts. Hence, now we had to increase the time of court postponement into 30 days instead of the 14 days. Another important aspect in terms of clause 8, I'm just highlighting significant things in each clause so that as we get your inputs, you are able to give your substantive input based on these clauses. And then we said in clause 8, we are actually amending section 156. That when the child is placed in the care of a parent or family member, if the court finds that such person is suitable to provide for the safety and well-being of the child. You will remember when I was also talking to section 150 amendment, which is basically your clause 6, I made mention of able and suitable. So remember, the courts as well are the ones that are making that determination to say that a child is in need of care and protection, of course, informed by the social work report. So I'm so glad my advocate from National DSD has just joined. I omitted to give an apology, Chairperson, to indicate that he will join us. Another important clause, it's clause 10. Clause 10 in terms of this bill, because I want us to really be specific, because it could bring confusion if we are looking at the other bigger bill, which I was saying it's 146. The clause 10 here, it's amending section 149, because we are cognizant of the fact that, you know, court orders, they do lapse. But now we want to strengthen this provision. You will remember that in terms of the Principal Act, we've got our section 48. My advocate, you will check that section, because it basically allows the presiding officers to monitor, to supervise, to even extend or vary a court order. So we're saying at least let's give a period of 6 months to say, presiding officers, please don't let, because you also have a responsibility in terms of section 50 to monitor these court orders. So please further extend for 6 months whilst awaiting all those outstanding documents. Remember, I indicated that your advertisement, your unabridged birth certificate, sometimes people even take years to get an unabridged birth certificate for an abandoned child. So we're saying that presiding officers, please allow a 6 months extension. Bearing in mind that section 159, it's a 2-year extension. So we said at least 6 months. And I also want to indicate that when we look at this section 159 of the Principal Act being amended by this clause, read it together with the section 186, which is basically the clause 14, because we've got the clause 14 here that also talk to issues of strengthening the supervision, because the reluctancy of the presiding officers often comes out of credible social work reports, where there's also lack of supervision of such placements. So with section 186 being amended by this clause 14, we are strengthening the supervision of such placements. Going back to clause 11 as well as clause 12, these are clauses that we also believe that they are very key if we want to strengthen the foster care program, giving this comprehensive legal solution that is required by the court. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
I say thank you so much for that detailed intro. I think why I asked for the detailed intro is to trigger the senses around the bill, and for people to recoup all the necessary knowledge, the stuff they have read and that sort of thing. I take it that you all have studied the bill, the contents, but this is just a kind of a refresher before I go to the public, and I hope you understand, and I hope you agree with me. May I ask at this point in time, before I give over to NGOs and public interest the opportunity, maybe the advocate want to say something? Or the advocate can say, I am happy with my counterpart's input. for now. Is that what you are saying? Okay, thank you so much. May I ask my provincial colleagues if there's anything you want to add to what the lady has said?
Honourable Chair, from my end, from the provincial office, I think our colleague
You
from National
concur.
D has covered it
that
thoroughly.
that was detailed
Yeah,
enough.
comprehensively covered.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I at this point in time welcome all our other guests up there in the gallery. Thank you for your presence. We appreciate that. You may take part in the proceedings from there, or if you want to come down to speak, I will give you the opportunity to do even that. But I would love to open the floor. I will ask my honourable members first to sit down. They had the opportunity. You can get another opportunity if needed. But and we love your presence. It's important. But NGOs, CBOs, any one of you, if you stand up, please your name and the organization you represent. You might even also say, I'm here on my own account privately. I don't represent the organization, but your name and that sort of thing is very important for us. But before you stand up and raise your hand, I will have to ask you, please fill in the attendance register. We must know who is present, the tally, how many people is very important, and we need to prove to other sources of government as well that it was properly organized, well-run public hearings. It's very important for us to do it that way. Then also, I note some of the tables do not have enough water. It's a bit humid in here. There's water at the back. Please go and fit. Is there no more water? Okay, then we need to get water quickly. Okay, I will say to you again when the water is here. May I ask at this point in time, anyone that want to raise the hand, that want to give input to any section? There might be sections in the bill you are happy with. There might be sections you are not happy with. And on those sections, you are most welcome, even to give an overview how you see the bill and the contents. Lady, you may, please.
Thank you. My name is Renelle Fritz. I'm not sure whether I'm presenting Stelzorg or whether it's just myself. So if I embarrass Stelzorg, it's not Stelzorg. If I don't, then it's myself. Okay. If we look at the first part, where you discuss the basket of services with the definitions, and you say that the top-up grant is there and SASSA will deal with it, whatever. Will SASSA acknowledge the fact that the definition says one person must be orphaned in order to be seen as an orphaned person? Because at this stage they are asking death certificates for both parents. Otherwise they don't get the top-up grant, and then we're back to family looking after a child where the one parent is alive but not contributing, and yeah, where it's not an orphan child. Then my second one is the number 4, the M&E on the social or the NGOs, child protection services, and I would like to know where does it say in terms of DSD services that's being monitored in M&E as well, because the same is happening with DSD. On the next one, the section 5, if you bring down the services to the provincial side, how will that affect the finances? Because national is still the pocket, the finances, and providing that. Section 7, at this stage, the courts are using section 64 to do the adjournment for 1 month. Will that have an effect in terms of this 30 days, in terms of the 64 adjourning a matter for 30 days? Then in terms of section 10, where you say in 2A, the order has lapsed and it can be extended for 6 months on good cause, will that be seen as a once-off thing, or is that every 6 months it can be a repetitive thing? Because the courts rather see this as the way it stands here is the way they implement it. Thank you. And the monitoring, do we do that in terms of Section 65 or do we do it in terms of this then? I think that's my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. How would you, as officials, like a couple of more? Another hand or two. As the lady spoke, I could see some of the heads going in agreement and that sort of thing. But anyone else, please? Yes, lady, you may.
Good morning, all. Thank you, Chair, for this
Good morning.
opportunity. I'm Chloe Johnson from Molosongololo, and with me I have a few youth. I have Shanae May, I have Eviwe, Sungubala. There we go. I have Andrea Jonkers and also Mbali Poth, and I would like to hand it over to them. Yeah.
Just help them to press the white button, please, so that we can hear them clearly.
My name is Iviwe Msumbala. I'm 17 years old from Westland and I attend Proteas High School. We understand that the purpose of the bill is to make changes to the Children's Act.
May I ask her just to try and speak into the mic so that we can hear you clearly? We can't hear from the front.
We understand that the purpose of the bill is to make changes to the Children's Act. We know that that children have a right to take part in decisions affecting them. We are excited to be here, but we are also very nervous. This is our first time taking part in this participation process and visiting the provincial parliament. Some of our older members, those who are now 18 and over, to take part in previous public participation process on the Children's Act and Sexual Offences Act. The Children's Act promotes the rights, care and protection of children. It's a guideline of how children must be treated when they need help, assistance and support. In our local communities of Atlantis, Western, Delft and Mfuleni and Blikkerstrop, children experience many problems. Many do not enjoy their rights set out in the Constitution or in the Children's Act. Many children are suffering, don't get enough food to eat, they are abused and hurt by elders and their parents. They are exposed to violence and crime and many are killed. We feel unsafe and fear for our lives. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that input. Anyone else? You wanted to say, lady? Oh, there's that one.
Hello, my name is Mbali Potter, and the Children's Amendment Bill aimed to make changes to the Children's Act to improve the meaning of certain words and service to children. We support the changes to include the new definition of an abandoned child. However, we feel that the meaning of the word abandoned is not enough to include the many experiences of children. Unfortunately, many children are left behind, given away, dumped, thrown away, kicked out, rejected, disowned by people who have lawful responsibilities and duties of care, custody and protection over them, their parents, guardians, and caregivers. Many fathers abandon their children even before they are born. Many children in our communities live only with one parent, their mothers or their grandmothers. We also have many children who live with family members like their grandmothers and aunties or other people who do not have any legal custody over them and whose parents do not have any contact with them. We also have parents who leave and do not return home to their children. And we have situations where children are kicked out of the house by their parents, guardians, or caregivers because of behavior problems, pregnancies, or drug addiction. And we have situations where children are secretively given or handed over to others. Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning. My name is Andrea. In part A, it is started that an abandoned child means a child who was deserted by a parent, guardian, or caregiver.
Just push that mic a little bit lower to Dolores, please. Thank you.
Abandoned child means a child deserted by her or his biological or adoptive parent, guardians or caregiver or foster parent. It means it is a child deserted by people who are lawful responsibilities and duties for the care, custody or protection of their children. A parent who deserts a child means that a parent did the following: abandoned the child, left the child behind, given away the child, dumped the child. It is noted that Section 1A also means that a child can be identified as an abandoned child when he or she is abandoned by only one parent and still be in a care and custody of another parent, guardian or caregiver. Therefore, we support the amendment of Section 1A. Section 1B has a provision of a time period that must elapse before a child can be identified as an abandoned child. The provision of no contact for a period of at least 3 months is unfair. This violates the right of the children to be identified immediately as a child in need. A child who is vulnerable and at risk and have rights to reserve immediate care and protection. In 3 months waiting time, violate children constitutional rights and will only increase the child's vulnerability at risk of abuse and exploitation. Children could starve, drop out of school, go missing, and be trafficked and sold. It is foolish to wait for 3 months for a child to have no contact with a parent before a child could be identified as an abandoned child.
Thank you for that.
Morning. Can everybody hear
morning.
me fine? Okay. I'm Shanae May, and it is proposed that this provision be amended. A child identified as an abandoned child has the right to receive immediate care and protection. It is thus proposed that the provision be amended to Chapter 1, Section 1B be amended as follows. Section B has for no apparent reason, the child has no apparent reason to be left alone, had no contact with a parent, guardian, or caregiver, and determined that the child received no care, supervision, and support from a parent, guardian, or caregiver. We support this new addition related to the child who has no knowledge of the whereabouts of a parent, guardian, or caregiver, and such information cannot be established by the authorities. In conclusion, unfortunately, we have not had much time to go through every proposed change in the Children's Amendment Bill. We hope to do so and include any further comment in our final written submission. We hope that more children will take part in these public hearings. We call on the Provincial Parliament to make sure our child are properly informed about how they can take part in the public participation process, help children's organizations and communities to support children to take part in these decision-making processes, provide us with the child participation guidelines and schedule for public participation as early as possible, inform more children and their organizations and school of how they can take part. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My officials will just have to indicate at what given stage they want to comment, give feedback and that sort of thing. If you think you want to do it now, you can respond now. Okay, there will be another round. Lady, all yours, you may go. Yeah.
Thank you. I think it helps just to do this mic because sometimes you're not sitting so comfortable. When you are seated, you're not becoming audible. So, Honorable Chair, I'm standing not out of disrespect. Ma'am, in terms of the issue of the implementation of the top-up grant, In terms of the SASSA regulations, you need a death certificate for the parent that is deceased as the person that is caring for this child, and an affidavit that indicates that you do not know the whereabouts of the father of the child. So I think it's something that we have to bring under the attention of SASSA so that the message is coming across. And I think one of the disturbing things that I've been hearing, even on the our social media, social development page, is that the public, including the professionals, seem to be viewing the top-up grant as a transition to foster care. And I want to tell you it is not. It is not a waiting room, but you are saying that this child goes straight, the caregiver caring for the orphan child goes straight to SASSA with a death certificate of the mother of the child, indicating that the whereabouts of the father through affidavit are unknown. SASSA will process such grant. When it comes to the designated, the quality assurance that we're talking about in this clause, it's applicable to all child protection, services. It does not exclude social development. And regarding the issues of finances, I always bring back, the section that we have in the Act, which is our Section 104 in the Principal Act, which says that the MEC of social development, I want to come to that part. Section 104 of the current Principal Act, subsection 2, the MEC for social development must, within the national strategy referred to, provide for the provincial strategy aimed at properly resourced, coordinated, and managed child protection services. Yes, I understand that this could even require that the lobbying for more finances should be done, because we know that our child protection services are under-resourced. And if we want to deliver quality services, it's important that these services are fully resourced, because we have realized that our children are not receiving the quality of care that they should be receiving. Coming to clause 10 of the bill, if this is a once-off, this extension that we are talking about, and I also want to link it to that issue of adjournments, which is in the current Principal Act, because it's very clear to say that if adjournments have to take place, they have to take place in good cause, and it's adjournment of 30 days at a time. So you might, as you present your report, indicate to the presiding officers. For instance, I just want to indicate in Eastern Cape, we've got a very good, chief magistrate together with the magistrates in those courts who actually monitor the court orders as per the provisions of the Principal Act, and ensure that when the court when there's indication on their system that this court order is about to lapse, they call upon the social worker, but at the same time, because they don't want to let that court order to lapse, they would implement the section in the Children's Act to make sure that is not a court order that would lapse, which would lead us to the current challenge that we have as the country. So the monitoring, it's basically in terms of Section 186, but at the same time in terms of the Section 65, because we are expected that we must monitor the court orders. But what we have also done is to make sure that as part of our engagement with the judiciary through our intersectoral steering committee at national, we sensitize so that the chairperson of the Chief Magistrates Forum communicate the message to say, chief magistrates in your own clusters, please, let's take note. These are the developments when it comes to implementation of the clauses of the Children's Act. Therefore, we need to really support and monitor these court orders and make sure that we inform, social workers accordingly. But it's important that children are also brought in court. We're not saying because you end up extending for ghosts. I think I was more noting the comments and the inputs that are made by the children, and we appreciate that. And I also acknowledge that really in 3 months' time, whilst we're saying that we wait for that parent to resurface, that parent has really neglected to take, seriously his or her responsibilities of being a parent. So the 3 months really, it's quite long. We look forward to receiving those written inputs. I think, Honorable Chair, it's important that we get written inputs as people are making the inputs. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think on one other last issue, I want to add some comment, what the young lady over there have said, the time frames, and for the people that was a couple of minutes late, I've said it before, I'm going to repeat myself, and I think it's very important. The public hearing process is not the only process for people to make their voices heard. It's one of 2-3 means of how you can make your input. Up to the 21st of October, you have time to make your input. Written input, representation, written representation, you can do that. So you are not, how can I put it, you are not restricted to make input. Okay, I hope that point is clear. I don't know, Advocate, if you want to make a point or two.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to add a word or two to what my colleague has already presented. In fact, she has actually responded to the issues that were raised, but just to also indicate with regard to the issue of the top-up grant, this is already happening. There are numbers at SASA as we speak of children who have already benefited from this. As we indicated that you don't need 2 death certificates. Hence, we have adjusted the definition of an orphan to that of just one parent having deceased, and the other parent, you just submit an affidavit to that effect to say the whereabouts of that particular parent is not known. Again, like my colleague has indicated, I think it's something that we need to maybe conscientize all the offices of SASA, because other offices are operating well. They understand the implications of this provision. And this act must not be read in isolation. It must be read together with the SASA Amendment Act, which was passed in 2020. So the amendments in the Children's Bill must be read together with the Social Assistance Amendment Act that is already in force. We are complementing that process when we are finalizing this particular bill. Again, with regard to the issue of M&E, which my colleague has referred to, it is indeed correct that when we read these provisions, when we read this bill, we must not read this bill alone and say some of the issues are not addressed in this bill. This bill must be understood to be a bill that will be infused into the broader Children's Act at the end of the day. This will be the Children's Act as amended. So if there are things that are missing in the bill but are here in the principal legislation, that must be understood to be a single piece of legislation. So we must not look at that alone. With regard to the financial implications, we must take into account that part of the legislative process requires that a bill be costed. So a costing company was engaged during the processing of this particular bill. And it was indicated that an X amount of money would be required to implement this particular piece of legislation. So we must not worry much about the financial implications. Of course, the cabinet had approved this bill knowing that this will be the cost that will be required to implement it at the end of the day. Again, with the issue of the 3 months period, yes, we appreciate the commentary from children. It is indeed correct that nothing about us without us. But the 3 months period, if I can just say in that effect, it is also informed by the fact that, yes, it's a long period, but if we were to say after a day or two, a child is abandoned, it is in need of care and protection, and we get a court order to that effect, and the parent resurfaces on the 4th day, and then we would need to rescind that court order. And again, the parent disappears for a day or two, and then we get another court order. So the 3 months period has been designed with the understanding that at least after a period of 3 months, there could be that sense objectively. Not that the child at that stage will not be taken care of in terms of the benefits that are due to that particular child, but the declaration of that child to be a child in need of care and protection will only be as being abandoned, will only take place after a period of 3 months. The other issues around abuse, we take note of the comments, but we must also understand that outside this bill, there are other provisions that we have not taken care of because we are rushing to ensure that at least the foster care issues are addressed before the end of November. The issue of abandonment, abuse, and all that is already dealt with in Section 110 of the Children's Act. What needs to happen when a child is abused? Section 110 is very clear and is being amended to cater for other people who must take action when a child is being abused or abandoned. So we must take note of that. That particular provision is already in existence in terms of Section 110 of the Act. It will still come around in the future to deal with the rest of the provisions of the Children's Amendment Bill. And we must also take into account that there are other laws that have already been passed, either in terms of legislation or as common law. For an example, the Constitutional Court has already passed a judgment that talks to the prohibition of corporal punishment, meaning that if a child is being, in not just corporal punishment, but just even chastisement, just as minor smacking of a child, it has already been outlawed in our country in terms of the Constitutional Court judgment. So we must also be conscious of those things. And our duty as those developing legislation is not to rewrite the existing law. The judgments of the Constitutional Court outlawing child chastisement is already there. So there's no point of us to bring it in here again, because that is already law. If you violate a child in that manner, then you will already have committed a crime in terms of that judgment. Yes, basically, my colleague has touched on others. I just wanted to add it one or two on those.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair.
From provincial side, are you covered?
I think, Honourable Chair, all I can add to my National DSD's comments is with regards to the monitoring of orders. And our colleagues from National DSD has actually afforded us with a system where we actually load all our foster children onto a electronic database, which is now our new electronic foster care monitoring tool. So we have a database of all our children who are in foster care, and we are able to see when a child's order is due to lapse. So social workers receive these notifications on a daily basis. When they open up their system, they're able to see which child's order is due to lapse. And I think the Western Cape is taking lead on this process. We've actually done very well with regards to this. All our children, 38,000 children, are loaded onto the system. So we are aware of each and every child who is in care in the Western Cape, and we are able to access the database and access information about this child at any stage when it is required. Also, with regards to the swift extension of court orders, that was a huge challenge for us in the past. We have now the delegation from our National DSC office in terms of Section 125, where we are able to actually access the system, the National Child Protection System, to verify that our applicants who are the foster carers and the safety parents, that their names do not appear on Part B of the National Child Protection Register, to ensure that our children are safe in the placements where we actually care for them. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I think that's the only contribution additionals.
For that input, I'm going to allow for another round of input or questions, but let me just advise very softly, let us try not to repeat what was said already and that sort of thing, but let's see how far we get with the next session as well. The lady here in front's hand is up and others may follow, please.
Just Damaris Kiwis from the Cape Metro Health Forum. Just a concern with regards to the bill and the laws that is connected to the Child Care Act, because there are some laws that are in conflict with what I have in front of me. With regards to Section 3, Section Amendment of 45 of Act, so the guardianship. The Children's Court says that if both parents don't provide permission for guardianship, then that will not pass. I've just been through that process. That's why I can talk about it here today. Because the court, according to the court, there's conflict. So if we are sure that children in foster care, so for instance, I have a child in foster care, just making an example. I have a child in foster care, but the parents are nowhere, according to Section 1, that abandoned of children. So now I go to court because I know the law for guardianship. The court didn't grant it because the Child Maintenance Act and the child's, I don't know what and what and what, is in conflict with another act. How do we, as ordinary people, understand the conflict of law against each other when it gets to courts? Because you are being sent from pillar to post if you don't understand. I could stand my ground because I walk with my little small Bible. But if the law is in conflict with each other, how do ordinary citizens, how do foster parents make their demands? There's a situation now in Easter River where a foster child has been moved between families, but the SASSA grant hasn't moved between families. And the social worker on the case is nowhere to be found. How do we, and these are real life situations. It's not somebody that told me anything. People trust me, so they call me, they ask me, this child is moved between families. The other child is on the street. She's an orphan. She's on the street. No one knows where she is. No one knows where the social worker is. So it comes back to the first question about the monitoring and evaluation and the supervision. I hear the provincial person says that we know of each child in this province, you know, but are the follow-up being done to really see that where the child is placed is where the child is still living? Thank you.
I think that's such an important issue. I don't want you to lose your train of thought. Don't you want to respond to that briefly, please? You want to respond?
Okay. Thank you. That is a very, very valid question. I think social workers, if they have a duty to monitor, they have a duty to supervise, and if there are individual cases that we are not aware of, or that the particular DSD service delivery area is not aware of, or that the DCPO, which is our designated child protection organizations, our partners, are not aware of those cases, please report them. It is difficult to give input on individual cases, but if there is this particular case that you're referring to, please email us and we will be more than happy to follow up that situation. But quite correctly so, social workers have a duty to monitor when children are in placement.
No,
whether it is long-term placement or 2-year placement, social workers do have a duty to monitor and supervise those placements to ensure that our children remain safe in those placements. Because the onset of the process and throughout the process, provisions are made that our children remain safe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Ma'am, it's worrying what you are sharing, especially this thing of the grant not following the child. And we basically also indicate that it is not only the social work duty to do that monitoring. We've got our social service practitioners. That is why with this amendment in section 186, we say social service practitioner. I also want to bring your attention to the Principal Act. I love it when you say that this is your Bible. The section 65, subsection 4, indicating that any person may report any alleged non-compliance with an order of the Children's Court, or where the situation of children is worsening. And again, linking it to section 110, any person who identifies that, because a foster child, an adopted child, could still be a child in need of care and protection within the care of the person that the child was given to. Hence, this provision has been put. So it is an obligation of every citizen of this country. It's a constitutional obligation to report when a child a child is abused. And it's also worrying for me to note that the transfer of grants has not happened. But it means that the social worker was not even aware that the child moved from that person to that other person. Hence, we are saying that with this resourcing of the child protection units, it will ensure that we've got the necessary support in terms of the professionals that are supposed to be in this unit and do this monitoring that we're talking about. I'm going to give over to Advocate to speak on the issues of the conflict of laws.
Thank you, Chair. One of the issues that is dealt with when a law is made is to take the law through the office of the Chief State Law Advisor. The rationale for doing so is to have the State Law Advisor to indicate that the law is constitutionally in order, and the law itself, that is the proposed legislation, is sound in law. And part of that process includes harmonization of laws to indicate that there are laws that are already in existence dealing with a particular topic, and how then the proposed law is going to fit into a broader scheme of pieces of legislation that is already in existence. The magistrates are actually aware of the interpretation mechanisms when it comes to such issues. We may not necessarily speak on their behalf as we are here in terms of how they navigate through that, but just to understand and indicate that there cannot be a conflict in terms of how these pieces of legislation are designed. However, if there is a conflict, they also know what they should do when there is a conflict between legislation A and legislation B in terms of a later law overriding an earlier law by implication, or in terms of a specialized law taking precedence over any other law, such interpretation mechanisms. So there are such issues that they would take into account. We cannot say much in terms of how that particular case should have been interpreted, since we do not have full appreciation of the facts thereof. But there are interpretation mechanisms that they need to apply, and there are principles that guide the development of legislation. And this one also passed through that stage, hence it is at this stage now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Comprehensive questions and comprehensive input. I like that. Lady over there, please. Just one second. My apologies. I made a brief mistake. The lady up there had her hand up before you. Can I give you, could you stand and give you a quick input? Kasifa Ahmad. Okay. Don't you want to come down rather so that we can capture your input as well? Let me give to this lady first and you come down, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Betsy Nivot. Okay. I just want to comment further on the service delivery. I think one of the things we hope we will stop is by this electronic system that we can actually follow the child as well. We have picked up a couple of children that's indicated as being in our area of service. We never heard of them. So yes, there is gaps, but we truly hope to capture those children that is so desperately in need of care and services by professionals. That brings me to, Honourable Chairperson, the deficit in the norms and standards in terms of caseloads applicable to social workers. You know, in the foster care system, and then we blame the Act and we change the Act and we blame X, Y, and Z. But the fact of the matter is that social workers rendering social service to children foster care have to deal with more than 500-600 children per social worker. It is, we are failing our children and we have to apologize to our children for doing that. So if we come to human resources and allocation of resources, we have to plead with the powers to be that please look at the child protection organizations. And I'm not negative if I say it. If positions have been created, take for instance, gender-based violence, social development come and say, but we have created 80 more posts. But where? And for what purpose? And what do we want to achieve with that? So if we want to service our children and to make amends with what our children has to face on a daily basis, we have to become really committed to the cause of our children. Please.
Thank you. We appreciate that input. The lady is now ready there at the back, please.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Kashifa Ahmad, and I'm from Housing Assembly. Thanks for the opportunity. And this is my first time also here. You know, we working in communities and we are faced with a lot of challenges regarding children. And I think sometimes we take things for granted also, because some of our communities don't know the acts and they don't know these things. And I think this is the place where you guys are making the decisions and we submit and all these things. But you know, I don't filter through to our communities. And I want to concur to what the lady was talking about the children. You know, we're sitting with the same situation and this woman's house burned down and she had 7 children that she took care of for a very long time. And when a place burned down, very quickly the social workers came to fetch the children and she raised them from a very young age and the children were devastated. And she's still sitting with a house that is not even completed. It's just a mess. Now, you know, even with the money also, nothing was transferred. She raised these children, even with some of the money that she got, some she didn't get. So we don't even know where the children are. But I hear there's a database where the children are on. But you know, these are our realities in our communities. And then we also have some of the women, as you can see on top, it's just women that's here. Because it's women that's leading our struggles in our community. And we've seen that also when you go for your IDs, you struggle to get even the children's paperwork in order. And when you go to SASSA, they're giving you a very hard time. And we are very surprised to see this top-up. We hear about the top-up, but nothing is happening. Even when you go to SASSA, even to get extra for the person who's taking care of the child, you are giving a hard time there. So I don't know how are we going to deal with these things, because when you complain, nothing is happening. And my last question is also, there's a lot of submissions always that are done when there's amendments that's going to some of the acts. Now I want to know also, giving all the submissions, what is happening to those submissions? And is the report back and a time frame also? Because we're also working with housing issues also. I know if I'm offside here. Because we've done so many submissions, but there's no feedback, no report back. Then we just see the bill is drafted without the amendments of people and comments that people made. So I want to know also, what is happening if there's changes that's going to be made? And what is our next step if we're not happy with what you're doing? Because I'm sure this is the place that we need to come and lay our complaints, because you're the public servants of us. So we want to know that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let us deal with those two issues first before I give for the next round.
Honorable Chair, I would say that these are service delivery matters that we're taking note of, which in relation to issues of norms and standards and caseloads, we take note. And I believe that with that clause, that amends the issue of the establishment of the child protection units, that clause 5, it's really intended to make sure that we address the issues that Ma'am have just highlighted. The latter speaker, I wouldn't really comment, because I'm not sure the submissions she's making reference to, whether it's submissions related to this bill or to the broader bill, which is the 146. Perhaps, Honorable Chair, the clarity also need to be brought into the fact that we're looking at the foster care bill. So the inputs that we would like to hear made in this provision is really around these 12 clauses, so that we can see if we can strengthen any areas. Hence, we are saying that you still have a chance to provide the inputs. However, the issues of information to communities from national point of view, social development, we always encourage that we should utilize even the community radio stations to share these informations about what services are available. And this month happened to be a social development month. As I'm talking to you, my minister of, when I say minister, I'm talking the National Minister of Social Development, Ms. Lindiwe Zulu. She's currently on GCIS addressing this same issue of the top-up grant that we are talking about. But I believe that really some of the service delivery issues, yes, they need to be brought to the right channels so that they can be attended to. Women really are taking a lot of strain caring for children. So we really have to further engage, Honorable Chair, Department of Home Affairs on this struggle of the birth certificate, which I highlighted even when we were doing the briefing previously. And let me reiterate that the issue of SASSA, we will take it back again to national, so that the processes are uniform across the country. You cannot be expected to be, sent from pillar to post when you're applying for the grant, you are caring for orphaned children. Advocate, I'm not sure whether you want to make any input regarding issues of submissions, because from this bill, we took consideration of all the inputs that were given. That is why we came up to the bill that we have today. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you so much. You are covered, Advocate, for now. From Provincial, you're covered. I think I just want to briefly add a number of service delivery issues. And some of the issues we noted, I made my own notes and that sort of thing. We have SASSA from time to time. I note the SASSA complaints. There's lots of complaints about SASSA, their non-delivery and non-responsiveness and that sort of thing. But from time to time, we had SASSA already in front of the Standing Committee, and we will continue. I think we plan a next session with SASSA to appear once again in front of the Standing Committee, because they must get these issues right. And I'm very surprised. I think the top-up issue, that is a new provision, if I'm not mistaken. But now you're aware of that it exists. And if the bill is accepted, it will apply. It will be there for the public and for, if I'm saying the public, the NPOs and NGOs, but also for the foster parents and that sort of thing to interrogate and to follow and to bring other concerns under our attention. But we try our best to talk to SASSA. I was involved with them even last week regarding many complaints, and then even birth certificates, etc. It must not be. Home Affairs needs to be responsive to those service delivery issues as well, but bring it under our attention. If I don't talk to those entities, our Provincial Minister Shana Fernandez trying her level best, and we're week after week in constant contact with one another about these issues. Then we need to ask Home Affairs to appear in front of the Commission. I just want to say to you, last week, and I'm also part of the Community Safety Standing Committee, we even summons the National Commissioner of Police to appear before the Standing Committee, and they were here. The whole bunch of the National Police leadership, and we do the same with SASSA. We're doing exactly the same with Home Affairs as well. So continue to bring those concerns under our attention. We must get it right. Then the issue with regard to our decisions don't filter down. I think that is what we are trying to do with the bill, is not to make decisions for you. But I think you can understand there's no way we could come to you and say, we want to do this and we want to do, and you will say, but where's the framework? Yes, the framework. Yes, our input. And it's for you to brainstorm and to say what you want and what you don't want. And it was lovely for me to listen to the youth, because they are the adults of tomorrow. They are the leaders of tomorrow. Obviously, they were assisted and that sort of thing, and their presentations give them as an individual the necessary confidence of how to address a crowd and that sort of thing, and how to address people and how to show their interest in issues. But even to say what they don't like in this bill. We don't want this and we don't like that. And that is how it should be. It's not for us to push things down your throat and that sort of thing. It's for us also to listen to you and to take it back and to say to National, can't you make your changes here? Can't you make your changes there? And it's a two-way street kind of a scenario. Next round of input and questions. Lady, you here, and then another. There's three hands, but that one first.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I'm Rosalind Swartz.
Just push the mic a little bit. That's.
Thank you. I'm Rosalind Swartz from Mitchell's Plain District. I just want to mention something, Honorable Chair. Thank you for Provincial and National that really showed us they want to be here for us. We thank them. But also let we look into the manpower of our offices, because the areas add on more and more people. move into our areas and that the offices in all departments of government, as I mentioned, I'm helping out with the human rights violation program from the UN Embassy. I'm the only one in this province, it's in all 9 provinces, and I'm working throughout the metro. And really, our government don't have really the picture what is going on outside, especially with our school dropouts, with our children on drugs, with our children abuse. And I must say today, Mitchell's Plain social workers that I work with for the past more than 30 years, because I'm a foster parent for 31 years. At the moment, I only do it temporarily, emergencies. And that people, there's a certain social worker I work with for the past 12 years. It can be what time of the morning or night when there's a problem. She's on duty, she's there. The manpower in our offices, it's too much for them. It's too much for them. Especially in areas where the emergency communities are pop up in a month's time. Thank you.
Thank you for that. The lady, thank you. Yeah. You, yes.
Hello, my name is Lucinda Titus. I'm representing Housing Assembly as well. I come from Lavendale. And my concern around the foster care is children, like someone said that children are being moved and stuff, but my huge problem that I have is that they're changing social workers all the time, especially in gang areas, especially in the rural areas. You meet one social worker today, 2 months later, there's another social worker. Our kids in our communities are already confused. They are already placed in places they probably don't want to be in. But then this up and down of social workers all the time is a big concern for me. Because today you have the social worker, they say one thing, 2 months later, it's a different thing. It's a different family. And the system has been failing our kids for over years now. And so when is that ever going to be right? And I do adhere that we need to report these things. I probably sent an email to DSD probably 10 times about one situation and nothing came from it. So what is being done about it with the emails, with the complaints? What is being done about it? Because to me, or in my understanding, I don't see any difference for like 5-6 years now. So that is my question. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. The lady over here.
Hi, thank you. Janice King from the Western Cape Street Children's Forum. So also, I think there are service delivery matters, but I'd just like to reiterate what has been said about the high caseloads. You know, it just seems to be deaf ears. We lobby and lobby and lobby, and nothing seems to happen. There was some research being done on the caseloads of social workers in the Western Cape, but then we didn't ever hear any outcome about it. But the problem, the high turnover, is because of the high caseloads, and unless we address the high caseloads, the service will not be good for children. Then just to comment on the foster care system, I recently went to a foster care conference, and what was said about the numbers is the 38,000 children being, the social workers who are dealing with it, there are about, I think, 265 foster care social workers in the Western Cape. I think that's 144 average cases per social worker, which is far too much. Imagine having 144 children, never mind siblings, and then it turns out to be 500 to 600. So this is really a crisis situation of a broken system. And I'd just like to compare and then the third issue is the lack of placement options for children in facilities. So if you look at the level 2 facilities, which is just a gewone children's home, there are 56 level 2 facilities housing 3,880 children. And there's a directorate of facilities that manages all of these facilities with a director and like a hub and a central admissions and a whole process. But if you look and compare that to the foster care system, those 38,000 children are headed up by 2 social workers. The foster care system in the Western Cape is 2 social workers. I can tell you their names if you want. I mean, I'm not sure if it's you, but it's just crazy. Why, with 38,000 children compared to like 3,800, is there not a directorate of facilities where they're actually dealing with all of these issues with the whole system? So then when it comes to Section 110, I mean, the law, as I said, the law might be fine, but when someone then sends in a Form 22, and like we've got 17 children on the street in Sea Point, plus siblings, plus Camps Bay children, 21 Form 22s were sent to an NGO DCPO in Kraaifontein. For 2 months, not one response about these children in crisis on the street with a Form 22, no response. It's just, children are absolutely neglected. And the thing is that we understand that the reason why these designated social workers are not reacting to the Form 22 is because they know that there's nowhere to put them, because there's a 300 child waiting list for a facility. And then the last thing is that we hear via DSD that their aim is to reduce the number of, we lobbied for change, and they were supposed to expand the number of placement options, expand the existing CYCCs. But now the recent news is that they're actually wanting to reduce the number of children's homes, of CYCCs, and do family preservation instead. It's too early for that. I mean, it's just that the children are staying on the street, staying in abusive situations. It's just totally unacceptable. So, thank you.
Thank you for that. That's the only 3 hands for now. Let me allow the other hands quickly, and then the officials can respond to that. Lady, you may go.
Thank you so much. Cindy Lee van Andel from Christine Revel Children's Home. I just want to draw attention to clause 10, 2A. Maybe I'm reading it wrong. Maybe the advocate can assist here. It says a court may extend an alternative care order. It sounds like the court has a choice. Why? Also, once an order is lapsed, why isn't there a time frame given to the external social workers to get to court to re-extend that order? So once an order is lapsed, is it okay for the child to wait for 12 months, 16 months? Because I have 4 of those where we are just waiting for the report to be taken to court to reopen children's court inquiries. So should we not provide a time frame for the social workers once an order has elapsed to rectify the situation?
Thank you. The lady over here.
Thank you, Chair. Please, Chair, can I be the last speaker? I'm just asking.
You want to be the last speaker?
Please, sir.
Okay, no problem. Sir, please, you wanted to say something? Your name and surname?
I'm Ridwan Tienerson. I'm from Mitchell's Plain. I'm the leader in my area. It's very sad. It's very sad to see. I was listening what all those ladies say. It's all ladies sitting here, and it's all girls sitting here. But out there, I think the foster care parents, I think everything is going over money. Not people that here, they're not caring about the children. And that is the truth what the people is saying. The social workers is not coming out to follow up, because all the kids of today, the boys, is falling in the hands of the gangsters. At the age of 13, 14, they're dying. And it's very sad to see, because I've got a feeding scheme. I've got a feeding scheme that I give out of my own. We're only 2 people. We're feeding their children, and we ask their children questions. But you can't go into the area yourself to find out what is the situation there, because everything just go over the money. Now the child has decided, I'm going to join the gangsters. They're going to give me more what my parents is giving me or what my foster parents is giving me. Because there's no follow-up. The same person that you feed is the same person that rob you. And it's very sad because I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it every day. I'm talking to them. I mean, to see every week or second week, 4 or 5 murders, kids, it's not on. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. We're facing serious situations in our communities link up to this issue. I think you're now ready for this round to give your input.
I was saying, Chair, if there's any other rounds, can I be the last? Because of if I start talking, it's going to raise a lot of questions. So, and
No, don't you want to do it now? Then
Oh,
we
okay.
hear your point of view and others can then follow.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair. My name is Jeanette Mamakopo Matebula. I'm a professional social auxiliary and a teacher and a health promoter. Chair, this is coming from the kids and the parents and the grandmothers. That, Minister, please, if you can help us as a teachers at school, that the new bill or the new child rights need to be come back and then being changed, because they found that there is a lot of what the child rights is, but it's never been discussed or being educated for a young mother that is 14 years now, that what it's all about. And second other thing is coming to the social worker itself. Minister, please take it up to the social auxiliaries. In Cape Town, we have more than thousands of social auxiliaries that are highly qualified, but they got no job, they got nowhere to be found. Simply because when they advertise the post, they say social worker, knowing that the social worker is working with the social auxiliary, so that the cluster of the whole world can be lower by the social auxiliary. You go to the school, Minister, there is not even a single social worker. So now we're saying, of course, the social workers, we cannot be able to get all these numbers. Let the social auxiliary do the work. They are the community workers. They know the neighbors. They are neighbor watchers. They know exactly what is the problem of the kids. The second speaker on the first round, she mentioned something that was very important, talking about the child's right. Minister, our kids are getting paid. On Saturday, they are not there at school. They're following the parent. They want their money. They're having a knife. When Tata talking right now is telling the truth. He said, Mom, I need my money. So why is that? Because if we never educate them about this money, why is this label 50 rand with the animal of African? What is all about them? Because if we did, we could be somewhere else. The parents, right now, the foster parents, you know more about when we're talking about the grannies. Grannies are being abused by these young boys because of they want their money. Said, you give me the money. I know you got paid. So now, why the level of education is very, very, very low. We want the basic information. In final, I'll ask you, Minister and the Chair, we're asking as a community, please can we have a pre-dialogues? A pre-dialogue is going to take me a granny, a boy on the street corner is going to take me the teacher that is off that day or is working only in the morning to sit together and talk about these kids of us. And then we bring it to you, we bring it to the social auxiliary. The social auxiliary is taking it to the social worker. The social worker is taking it to you. Then you know exactly how are you dealing with this community. Because of without us as a community being involved in our own problems that we are creating, we're not going to be able to be helped. So we're asking you the pre-dialogues. Thank you.
On that note, let me ask the officials to respond to the concerns raised and the issues raised.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. and also members of the public on the comments that have been made, and we take note. Madam, I am not the minister. I am the acting chief director for child protection, but my portfolio, I am director for child protection. Minister Zulu would kill me. And I think even the constituency that voted for her to be in that position, I'll be in big trouble. Okay. We take note. I think there's something, Honorable Chair, that I need to indicate, that a foster parent is not a guardian. So we should not make that mistake of thinking that foster parents are guardian. They are actually acting on behalf of government to take care of children who are in need of care and protection. So thank you so much for the work, Mama, that you have been doing for the 31 years being a foster parent. We really appreciate that, and we take note of the high turnover that, Ma'am, you also spoke about. And it's concerning that there's no feedback on reported cases. I think that we can remedy by implementing. I'm not sure if the child protection organizations are aware of the child protection register web-based system, which has got Part A, because the Part A is going to make sure that we follow up. Let me tell you from national, because child protection register is also my responsibility. We can see the cases that are not followed up, and then we ask the respective provinces. But it depends, was that Form 22 captured on the system? Because if it's not on the system, it's just a paper. I won't be able to take note of that. So I want to encourage that the electronic web-based system of child protection register be utilized so that we are able to track. Because if it means that we have to take it to MEC to say, MEC, as national, we are observing that you have got 100 cases that are flickering red on the national system because they are not attended to. So it means the social workers in those respective areas where the cases were reported, because Section 110 is very clear. And I appreciate the work that is done by social auxiliary workers. That's why we give them the responsibility of monitoring and supporting children in foster placements. Section 186, which we are saying that we are strengthening through this bill. So it means that as much as Ms. Talib, there is employment of social workers, but the social service practitioners to conduct this monitoring, it has to take place. I'm not going to comment on the conference because I don't have much details on it. Ms. Talib can talk to that, but all that I can indicate is that when a case is reported, even those that are in the foster care web-based system, when it will give that indication that this case is lapsing. For new cases, we say 90 days. Social workers have got 90 days to conduct investigation. So 90 days, it's actually 3 months. So you've got 3 months to conduct investigation for cases, the new placements. However, we are cognizant of the fact that there's issues of an abridged birth certificate that you have to wait longer for. There's issues of advertisement, which and some magistrates, they would ask for other documentation, which you also have need to provide. So, but the time frames in terms of that clause 10, because we're saying that 159, it's 2 years cases, but at the same time, your 186 is long-term placement. But within the 2 years that that child is within that system and the case is about to lapse, 6 monthly, the presiding officer may do that extension, because we cannot be telling them. Remember, they've got a prerogative. They would tell you that. So you cannot prescribe to the judiciary. And colleagues, there are also the children's court rules that are out there that outlines. Now that is from the magistrate side. So it's important that we read all the relevant legislations that empower us to implement the provisions of our Act. The issues of child's rights, protection of children in need of care and protection, it's actually the child's right, because the Constitution makes provision that the child has got the right to parental and family care, and where that is lacking, that child should be placed in alternative care. So we do strive to realize progressively the rights of children as stipulated in the Constitution, which our Children's Act gives effect to that. However, the important thing that now it's a huge task. I'm not sure where are the child ambassadors, because we do have child ambassadors here in Western Cape. Those are the people that should be advocating for the rights of children, but at the same time sharing the message that we always say, to say it's child's right that comes with responsibility. So that education really has to come out very strongly. And the dialogues, we love to do dialogues a lot, especially from national through our community development. And I believe the province do embark on such. But we need to intensify on those so that we can work through our communities. We were in Lavender Hill not long time ago. That was March, and again in June. And we developed the community-based intervention plan to address challenges that were identified in Lavender Hill. And we are working together with communities within Lavender Hill to address those challenges, which came out through the dialogues that you are talking about. And I will think I'll pause there, Honorable Chair.
Thank you for being called Honorable Chairperson.
We're all honorables as we sit here. We're all important people. Yeah.
That was a light note. Just to respond to the issue of a discretion may extend, which has actually been responded to by my colleague, just to add an idea that says the reason why we do not say must extend is because, remember, we are dealing with children here who are in need of care and protection, and whose status may change from time to time. So if we say to a presiding officer, the presiding officer must extend for a period of 6 months, and it appears that the status of that particular child has changed, is no longer a child in need of care and protection, we are creating a crisis for the presiding officers. So the presiding officers must first look at the circumstances before them and take a decision based on that. Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you so much. I'm not sure from Provincial side, are you covered?
Honourable Chair, the only thing I can add is just with regards to the question pertaining to our 38,000 children. And I think the clause that covers that was in terms of the CSG top-up grant, because 70% of the 38,000 children are children who are cared for by relatives and family members, who are children that are maybe just in need of financial assistance, but not children who are necessary children in need of care and protection. Hence, the top-up grant over a period of time may be able to then show us how, as children leave the care system, because the children who are currently in the care system will not necessarily be taken out of the system at this stage. They will remain in the system as long as there's a need for them to remain in the system. So as they reach the age of 18, or when it's no longer required for them in the system, we will be able to see over a period of time how the CSG top-up will play the role in terms of providing care to those children who are necessarily not children in need of care and protection. Also, with regards to the Section 186, which is Clause 14, that presiding officers in the Western Cape were very reluctant, although they wish to, and some have recently over the last year have sort of granted us more Section 186 orders, which are the long-term orders, where children then come into care and will remain in care until the age of 18, is that this clause will then address the concern of the presiding officers, where the Principal Act stated that a social worker must monitor once every 2 years. But the clause 14 will then cover that, what the concerns are of the presiding officers, that our social workers now have to monitor once every year. And then protect those children with a legal order, but our social workers have to visit more often. And I also just want to add that the high caseloads or the high turnover of staffs of social workers are linked very much to the high caseloads, and that's evident. Also with regards to the forum, and I think we had a rep at that forum because they've asked us to give input with regards to the foster care status in the Western Cape. And the two social workers that you are referring to, it is the provincial team. We're a small provincial team, but we have regional and service delivery structures in place where we have regional teams ensuring that the structures, the mechanisms and tools of trades for the 269 social workers are in place. But we do take cognizance of the fact of the lack of social workers for monitoring. Thank you.
Yeah. So that is one of the notes I've made. Not enough social workers, but we can only note that for now and take it to other structures because budgetary implications and that sort of things is at play. And that's why I just mention it, because that's a hefty discussion for other departments and so on. The one other worry for me is, and I'm just mentioning it because I don't want interest groups get the impression we note and we also don't note. And that sort of thing. The issue with regard what the gentleman from Mitchell's Plain have raised, the issues about the money, carers or who else, what he meant with that, people are in it for the money and not in it for really looking after the interest of the children. That is how I understand it. Maybe, yeah, the gentleman knocked with the head. I think we need to acknowledge that as well. And that aggravates to the situation. May I ask at this point in time, I see more hands, but I also need a comfort break, and we organize for you a cup of tea and a cup of coffee as well. I think let's have a 20-minute break. Let's go to the back, and then we have a quick cup of tea and coffee. I hope there's a muffin as well. You wanted to say something quickly.
Sorry, I have to go to another meeting. If I could just say 2 sentences.
Yeah.
I just recently heard about the comparison of the budgets that we get from national, and that social development gets 2.2 billion, education 29 billion, and health 29 billion. And I was just stunned by the difference. I mean, we talk, everything's about budget, but now, don't we need to look into why we get 2.2 billion and I mean, brilliant education, brilliant health, that they get 29 billion, but could we not just get 5? Can we not just double ours,
Okay, I hear that one. I note what you are saying. You're taking a chance there, but it's a valid one. But as I've said, that's an issue for a different date for discussion. Let's break for a cup of tea.
When was that?
of the members not here. There's one gallery and some other people. They indicate to me they got other commitments, and they were happy to ask the questions and make the input and that sort of thing for us to hear that, and that is important for me. And they also express their gratitude due to the fact that we don't, what is the correct English now? We don't cut them short, if I can put it to you like that. We don't unnecessarily stop them. We allow them to speak. It's their opportunity to air, regardless if the issue they raise was in line with the bill or not. We allow that because we are all politicians as well. We're all leaders as well. It's their opportunity to provide us with the side issues information so that we know how to address them. And that's what it is. And that is what's making these sessions so important. Look, we don't need, the time frame is scheduled for up to 1 o'clock. We don't need to stay till 1. We had given many people to say what they want to say, and I'm going to open the floor once again for another round of input. And then we see how it goes, and then we can then decide. We can stop and wrap up and that sort of thing. But I also don't want just to cut the session short unnecessarily. If we need to stay till 1 o'clock, we stay till 1 o'clock. After 1, unfortunately, there's other meetings. So 1 o'clock must be the cutoff for us. Some of our members sitting here must attend other meetings this afternoon as well. I must attend still 2 meetings this afternoon before I can think of going home. And that's unfortunately part of a day's work. So in saying that, thank you for being so prompt for being here, but I had to explain why other people had to leave. They table official apologies for their absence for this session. I was I said to the lady over there, she and the children, I love the input of the kids. And even if the kids was coached a bit, I think it's the right thing to do, to brief the children and to show to the children what a boardroom of this magnitude look like, so that they can also understand how we deal with issues and why we're doing things in a specific manner. And also for the community people, the input with regard to the issues, the service delivery issues in the community. I'm appalled with regard to 1 or 2 issues, the money issue and that sort of thing, and that it is brought under our attention by the public. And that also for me is very important. But if there's any outstanding issue, if there's any real other input you want to make from the public side, I haven't give an opportunity to my members of parliament sitting here, but I myself and the members of parliament on this day like today, we take a minority kind of a backseat role. It's your day. It's the public's day, but I will have to give them the opportunity as well. Maybe I need to start with the members of parliament. What are you saying? Are you happy with what you see, what you hear? Do you want to make a quick comment on 1 or 2 issues? You don't need to if you don't want to. Member Windvogel, it starts with you.
Thank you, Chairperson. No, I'm very happy with the outcome actually in the participation of all these different NPOs and NGOs, and especially our special guests, our children. We welcome your comments, your statements, and I'm happy that National is saying they are taking note, as Provincial is also taking note of the comments made by these children. And I really hope that the plea of the people will be listened to, especially when it comes to the shortage of staff, especially social workers. Dis 'n disaster as jy nie 'n plek het nie, beteken dat dienslewering kan nie voortgaan nie. So I'm happy that National and Provincial, both these 2 spheres of government are here and they are listening. to the plea of our ordinary people. Yeah, thank you so much, Chair.
I don't want to put National in a spot. They were put in a spot this morning and they sailed through all the questions very nicely. But there was a communique from National Department of Social Development for the appointment of hundreds of more social workers. I've seen that in the newspapers. I think I had the tally of well over 500 plus minus new social workers to be appointed. But that's not the point of discussion here today. I just mentioned it. That appeared in the papers, but that's for National to sort out. Honourable Baku Force, please.
Thank you, Chair. Mine is only to encourage all NPOs and NGOs that is here to follow the advice from our national acting director to make sure that they are putting all their their complaints online. And the second one, I would love to see the Provincial working together with our community, as we all heard here, that whenever they wrote a complaint, they don't get feedback from the provincial legislature, or I mean provincial government. So we would like the DSD to do the follow-up on that and work hand to hand with our people. That's all I want to say. And also I want to commend Molo Sorongololo and other NGOs that are here. They are always working hand in hand with this provincial parliament, and their priority, we know, is the children. Not forgetting our veteran, Tamaras, he's always here. Yeah, thanks for availing yourself every time we have programs like this. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you. Honourable Wendy Kaiser-Philander.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm not going to drag this out. I think my colleagues actually captured this morning very well. One can really just commend. I think when we stepped in, I was a bit concerned that we might not have pulled off an effective hearing in this regard. But I think that as people came from all walks of life, from different organizations and the young ones as well, it does your heart good to know that people want to become involved. And I think for us as legislatures, sorry, we should really take this to heart, that there's nothing that we can do without these voices. They are the people that are on the front line, that experience these challenges daily. And I really hope going forward that these different spheres of government, all these organizations are sitting here, irrespective of what our political affiliation are. I can assure you, as much as we can disagree, we can also agree on a lot of things because we work in the community, we come from there, we know exactly what the challenges are. But it will take that collective responsibility. My only concern is, Chairperson, that what we are dealing with, for it to be effectively implemented, we shouldn't just look at the writing on the paper. We should make sure that the resources, the warm bodies, those that are responsible to bring this legislation into reality, for it to be effective. And now I'm speaking to our national colleagues across the room, not for any other reason, but to say that we want it to work on that level, and we want it to work on provincial level. We want it to work in our local government sphere. We want it to work in each and every community in the Western Cape. So we need to make sure that all those things are in place. I mean, I think it's 50,000 odd shortage of social workers. It's a lot. How will we be able to say for all of this to work, when and how will we put all those measures in place to ensure that we are effective? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, colleague. Honourable Christopher Fry.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to welcome all the, firstly, your attendance, and secondly, your input. I think it's important that I've learned a lot from the input, and I think that it's important that, like Member Kaiser-Valanda says, that people are interested and people are invested in our children. It's so heartening to see the children here, because I've got two little girls. Well, they're not little anymore, but they tell me that often. But it's important to know that the children are our future, and to make sure that we give them the best foot forward that we can is most important right now, especially in our environment. So thank you very much for your input so far, and I look forward to the rest of it. Thank you.
Nazim, on that note, may I get a sense of all the leadership sitting here in this room? You had given your input. It seems to me there is no further input. We will collate. I see 1, 2 hands. Oh, there's 3. There's more hands. Okay. The lady with the blue at the back, please, you first. No, the lady.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Natsai from Ilita Labandru. Thank you for this opportunity to make our submissions. I'm sorry that I have to bring you back again to section 1. We feel as an organization dealing with gender-based violence, all forms of it really, that the definition of abandoned child is not comprehensive. Why we say this is because sometimes we have children who have been taken care of by a caregiver who was the grandmother or grandfather, then they pass away. The parent still walks in and out of that child's life, but this definition now talks about a parent who has not been seen or had contact with the children for up to 3 months. So what happens with those children? Some of the children, we help them even accessing domestic violence protection orders against their parents who are coming into their lives just like that. So eventually when these children go to DSD, then this definition really does not also allow them to be taken as children who are in need of care. So I don't know how that is also going to be changed, because even if we go back to the Children's Act of 2005, it's still the same. So we don't really see the changes or the upgrade in terms of defining abandoned children. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, there was a, yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Chair. My name is Cindy Moyo. I'm from Scalabrini Center, an organization that works with migrants and refugees in the Western Cape. So our analysis of the bill was from the perspective of migrant and refugee children. And we really commend the inclusion and incorporation of most of the submissions that we made, especially in terms of the definitions to unaccompanied and separated foreign children in South Africa. But what I want to bring, my comment today, or what I want to bring to you today, is the issue around foster care of foreign children and their documentation, because it seems like it becomes an issue in some cases. I'm not a social worker myself, but because we work with social workers, especially in terms of guiding them on documentation of foreign children, and we've had social workers having issues with maybe the extension of a foster care order just because the child is undocumented or the child does not have a birth certificate. So surely this does not only affect foreign children, but I'm sure it affects citizen children as well, whose birth is not yet registered. Just last week, I had a social worker contacting me about the birth registration of a foreign child, and she indicated in the email that the foster care lapsed. And I asked why, and she said because the magistrate won't extend without the child having a birth certificate. And I asked why the child does not have a birth certificate, because the mother was deported back to a country of origin before the birth was registered. And Home Affairs is insisting on maternity test. And I was like, how are you going to do a maternity test if the mother is not there? Physically is not in the country. So my question is, like I said, I'm not a social worker, maybe I don't understand certain things, but I believe the best interest of, I don't know if the documentation of the child does affect the best interest of the child, because I feel like if the foster care order is not extended or the child is not formally placed and the magistrates are refusing to confirm the placement or to extend the placement, does that not then put the child in a more vulnerable situation? And also the issue of documentation, shouldn't it really matter on the side of the caregiver more than on the side of the child? Because it is not the duty of the child to document themselves. And to be honest, documentation of foreign children in South Africa is very difficult, it's very complex. Most of the times for unaccompanied children, there are no documentation options. Where the options are there, you find that they're so complex and it takes years to actually get the real document for that child. So I think it's something maybe that it needs to be looked into. Like I said, I'm sure it doesn't only affect foreign children, but South African children, as long as the child does not have a document. And for me, I feel like the best interest of the child overrides the whole issue of documentation. Because if the child is not documented and cannot be placed, I think it puts the child in a more vulnerable situation than they are if they are not actually placed. Thank you.
Good. Lady, please.
Yes, the 2 points I want to raise is the 159. If a court order is in existence and there's a child's movement within that period of time, so 3 months before the court order expires, we have to hand in our reports at court for the extension. So if there's a crisis removal of that child and we need to place the child somewhere, we use the 173, place the child there, then pending, for instance, a designation of a CYCC. Now we have to wait for DSD to designate a CYCC, but in the meantime, the time is going on and we cannot get the order extended because the magistrate says there's a movement of this child. The child is not where the original court order is and they're not going to extend this court order. So some way we must have a provision to deal with cases like where there's emergencies. The other one is more or less the same. It's when the child is turning 18 and the child is now, there's a 176 extension of this child with the person, and then the person dies. It's stopped. There's no assistance further because you cannot transfer a child over the age of 18.
Got that. Then, oh yes, lady, you may go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mine is just to announce something. You know, today I really want to make it a point to tell the national and provincial Molo Songololo, Ilita Labantu, and the ARC. That is the places that I know for years and deal with. The outcomes of youth that I refer to Molo for camps and things as from 1998. I can prove the valued young men and women that is today a benefit to this country. Also Ilita Labantu, the women that they work with, that I know that I work in all provinces, mostly the metro because I'm appointed here in all 6 districts, and I'm a foot shoulder every day of my life.
Thank you.
And also the ARC, where I refer youth for, you know, the rehab. They do outstanding work. Okay. And thank you to our government, Mrs. Talib. You had our back. You had our back. The 2 of us is with education, up to national with, we now involved with social development. Maybe some of my colleagues will think I favor youth, but I know exactly, as I mentioned, for the years that I work up to globally, you know, I know what it is. It's not easy. But I promise you today, you will have our back more. And I want to ask Mitchell's Plain people, we must get together and work together to achieve something very good out of it. I'm open to it. I'm there. And we must exchange numbers and things, then we can work together.
Thank you on that note. Thank you so much. Damaris?
It's more a concern because the provincial department is here, but in most of the province, they have partners dealing with foster care placing. So I think the concern in the province, and I speak on behalf of rural communities as well, is where the services of some of their key partners has been discontinued or it has lapsed. And so how do we collectively address the challenges in rural communities with regards to foster care? Because I know in some of our rural communities, the application process is delayed with 10 months. And whether it's for safety and whether it's for financial contribution, how do we collectively as partners, because the state always say we can't do it again, but when you reach out and say, please, how can we assist? Then it's almost as if, nie ons wil nie naby die Maris gaan nie, want sy is 'n moeilikheidmaker. But back at the ranch, it's not about the Maris, it's basically about that child that needs placement or that needs a court order to be in place. Because I think the national department, we need to really unpack foster care in the sense of care and protection for vulnerable children as well. Because your school dropouts, your child on the street, the child begging with a father at the traffic light, you know, and there isn't a social worker. So how do champions, and you asked the question, where's the ambassadors? Where's the child commissioner? She's not even in the room. So is foster care a matter of importance to her or not? It's just a concern. I'm picking it up. Our child ambassadors, foster care, not just in this province, I think in the country, is in crisis. And we need to acknowledge it, whether we want to or not. Because it is children that are vulnerable. It is children that cannot really access our courts. It is children that need somebody that is willing to walk the road with them. You cannot have a 14-year-old child in Easter River abandoned by the family, but the grant is not abandoned and there's no follow-up. I'm coming because that child is really haunting me. I don't know where to find her, but it's a vulnerable girl somewhere on the streets, you know? And so for me, the concern is we need to look at collective partnerships. The department cannot tell me, but it's BDISA's job. BDISA is being funded by the department to be the extension of service delivery in the province. And so, Portfolio Committee, we need to look at foster care as a reality in this province. And who delivers the service of foster care? Where is the stumbling blocks? Where is the cracks? And how can we collectively address the challenges around vulnerable children in our province? Thank you.
On that note, please.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. In terms of the question relating to the Section 173, that is a process where the Act makes the provision for the transfer of a child if the child is already in care, that we do not need to take the matter to court. So there is, to start with, So there is what we call a canalization services where the head of department has been delegated in terms of the Children's Act and could further delegate these powers. So we have what we call canalization social workers that processes these sort of transfers or movement of children in the alternative care system. So I think what I gauged, the matter was taken to court, if that is correct, and the magistrate has all the right to refer the matter back to DSD because it is a DSD function in terms of providing that particular temporary order to track where the child is in the system. I think what I do pick up is the lack of placement that could be provided in terms of transferring the child to a CYCC placement.
Talib, if I can just come in there. It's not, we understand the canalization process. That's not the problem. Is the order is made until, say, for instance, the 17th of October. So that's the overall order is until then. Now the 173 is made, and it's also only made until the 17th of October because you cannot go past the court order. The court won't extend that 17th of October court order because there's still a movement that needs to be finalized by the canalization. They cannot finalize it because there's no placement for the child. So this order is going to lapse on the 17th because the court is not going to extend it because of the movement not being finalized.
Fully acknowledged, and I think also, hence I have also indicated that the placement is an issue because the social worker could finalize if there was an available placement to transfer the child to. So the concern is noted in terms of the shortage of placement with regards to that 173 matter. In terms of the partnerships that the department have agreements, what we call transfer payment agreements with our DCPOs who render services, particularly foster care services. We have our structures in place where we meet on a monthly basis, what we call our Provincial Foster Care Forum meetings, where we discuss all matters relating to foster care, and our DCPOs are invited to those platforms and to provide input, to put their challenges to us. We are aware that some of our DCPOs have closed down, and those particular DCPOs where foster care services are provided, we are looking at those gaps at the moment. So, and I think COVID has hit a lot of our organizations really hard in terms of the sustaining services, and I think that is the core reason for that. And I think we have tried to assist where we possibly can in terms of sustaining those organizations, but I think some of our organizations have been too far in it in terms of sustaining those particular officers in those respective areas. But we are aware and we note those concerns. Thank you, Chair. That's from my side.
Thank you.
Thank you for the comments that have been made. We take note of those. And my plea, Honorable Chair, is that as the colleague from Ilitalaband was indicating that the definition of on abandoned children is not comprehensive, can we please have a proposal of what is it that is being proposed in terms of looking at that definition? Because when we speak about children in need of care and protection, it includes abandoned child, especially those that do not have a relative to care for them, which we are saying that for such children, that's where the issue of the top-up grant comes in. And I must reiterate that all children in the country, they are protected, they are cared for. The Children's Act, the Constitution, makes provision for them as the best interest of the child is of paramount. Yes. That is why we even say that where there are no prospects of reunification for any child that is in need of care and protection, adoption is the option. That such children, because I foresee that that child whose parent is out there leaving the child in the country without any care, it means that child is open for adoption. So, but all options needs to be explored for placement of children that are not reunifiable within family members. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I see that's not a hand I've seen at the back. Okay, I think I want to wrap up. I hope the answering of the last set of questions is okay. Damaris, I know people might not be altogether satisfied with everything, but we're dealing with a living document, with a living process, work in progress. Even a bill, a act is, as far as I'm concerned, a living document. Government is facing many challenges, many issues. I'm not looking for excuses, but it is a fact. I also don't want to talk about the budget cuts. That is also a fact. That is the elephant in the room we're facing on a year-to-year basis. With regard to this time around, you have X amount of budget, and then you hear for the next budgetary cycle you have R1 billion less. Where do you cut? That is unfortunately the other side of the coin. And many a times the public don't want to hear that, but that is factual. That is factual, unfortunately, and we need to be honest with one another. From my side, the bill, for me, how I read it this morning, listening to all the input, is also to strengthen issues around foster care and orphanage issues. Not to leave that one side, but to deal with it in a comprehensive kind of a manner, with all the issues attached to that. And the problem we face, I've said it before, but I repeat myself, it's a huge problem. It's actually an indictment to us as politicians, but also to us as an entire community, that our children get treated in the manner they are treated. No one wants its child to roam the streets, to become a gangster, and that sort of thing. It just shows you the huge problem, the huge social problem out there we still need to face as a collective. But yes, I agree, and that is the other plea, better coordination between NPOs, NGOs, structures in the communities on the ground, and government as a whole. And if I'm saying government as a whole, it is national, it is provincial, it is local. We got a huge task on our hands. We need to coordinate much better. Councillors needs to get involved, but members of parliament too equally needs to get involved in dealing with these issues. And then looking at the gaps, many gaps was identified, but some of the gaps doesn't need to be in the bill itself, because then you will have such a lengthy, thick document of a bill and that sort of thing. But it is good also to hear this morning, and I let the meeting flow with regard to all the side issues, all the service delivery issues. It's also equally important for us to acknowledge those side issues as well, because sometimes it is the side issues that's making the bill an elephant. And people are saying, but why do we have a bill? The bill can't address all of these issues and that sort of thing. But it's good for us to engage on these issues and to talk about the issues so that we can get them out of the way. And I think that's equally important for me. I haven't heard anyone saying we don't want the bill. Let me be very frank with that as well. I'm always frank regarding these issues. I haven't anyone saying, no, we don't want it and get rid of the bill and that sort of thing. I think what we are saying, we need the bill, but we also want government to address the whole package of issues. I think that's what I'm hearing, and I see the nodding of the heads. We need the bill. The bill is for us, because you're going to work with the bill on a day-to-day basis, but focus on the other issues as well. And I think if the script writers can acknowledge that, and that is why I'm referring to the script writers, all the officials, because they need to incorporate many of the issues into the bill. They have to go back. That is the process to their boardrooms, to their offices, and deal with the input we receive. This is the first. I think it was a major success as far as I'm concerned this morning, the amount of people. And I think on Wednesday, Thursday, we're in Caledon. And I think the 18th plus minus, if my dates is fresh in the mind, we're in Worcester. And then we're going to George as well. Yeah, but however, if Worcester is the 13th or the 18th, it doesn't matter. What I'm trying to say is we're going to all of those places. So, my friend, please.
Just in conclusion, yes, it's a very important issue because we all know that so many children are abandoned in South Africa. But also, more importantly, it is our older children that don't get the help that they deserve because the system failed them. And therefore, when we look at the bill and make our submissions, we need to look at how we can close those gaps that deny older children the kind of services that they deserve. And then finally, just in conclusion, if you give me permission, I don't know if you're all aware, but it's very serious, that she came here a couple of years ago and she made submissions to this in this very chamber, and she's going to be an adult soon. Today is her 17th birthday. Alia.
Happy birthday to you. But you made one mistake, and I'm going to take you on that mistake. Where's the chocolate cake? Look what we said. Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. On that positive note, let me say to all of you, thank you so much for being here. Firstly, secondly, for your detailed, straightforwardness input. No one negative, no one out of line, out of tune. You were all so professional this morning, and it's a highlight for me. And we got our work as politicians, where this side of the room where we're sitting, our work is cut out for us. You held us accountable, that's why we're there for. If we need to go and deliver a speech at your forum, invite us. And so that we could come and speak and address you on certain issues you feel appropriate. On that note, you must have a wonderful day. And lastly, I'm not going to say thank you to the honourable members. I think I've done it already for their presence, but for national and the provincial officials. Advocate, you and the two ladies, thank you so much. I really appreciate what you have done today. Thank you. Keep well. Have a wonderful day. Bye. The honourable members must just stay behind for a moment. Julle mag maar bly, ek kan sien julle wil nie huis toe gaan nie.
Thank you.
So that is proper.
Let me take your seat quickly.
Yes, I'll be. Honorable members.
points to deal with. First of all, maybe to conclude the business of the day with regard to the hearing itself. I'm very pleased with the process, very pleased with the frank input and the professionalism. I think you guys will agree with me. I think we achieved a lot. The first session for Cape Town, which is always the McCoy obsessions, went well. And don't be disturbed with the fact that I allow the other issues to be asked as well. If I stop people unnecessarily, I've learned the trait with public. Then the public get annoyed and become insultative, that sort of thing. I didn't want that to happen. And I think within the time frame it went well, even regardless of the side issues. Because if I can put it to you, 60% of the issues, how I've got it in what I wrote down as well, got nothing to do with the bill. It's just service delivery and service delivery and that sort of thing. But I think that we are done with the hearing, and we can all feel happy and looking forward to the next hearing. I think the time frames for us is important, and Nomonde, you need to help. I think you do have your document with you with regard to the next hearing, and you can follow everything. Worcester the 12th on Worcester the 13th. I think you got it wrong here.
No, it's not wrong, Chair. Remember, members are going to drive to Worcester on Tuesdays.
Oh yeah, Tuesday. Worcester, yeah. Okay, and Caledon the 18th and George the 19th. You have it. To sleep over. Wednesday. We got the by-election the morning. I must be at the by-election.
So members will drive from WCPB at 5 o'clock on
Wednesday.
On Wednesday to Worcester, so that because the members did not want to wake up early for the Worcester visit the next morning, which is the 13th.
And in the afternoon we return.
Then in the afternoon we return. Can I read the okay. Yes, after the hearing. So the traveling plan for the hearings is as follows. On Wednesday, 12 October 2022, due to by-elections on the day, members will drive from WCPP building at 1700 hours, which is 5 o'clock, to Worcester to sleep over for the hearing on Thursday, the 13th. The hearing in Worcester is on Thursday, the 13th. After the hearing, we come back because members have to attend the Standing Committee on Education, that annual report on Friday, the 14th. And members will again drive to Caledon on Tuesday, 18, after the annual report of social development. So on that morning of Tuesday, when you come for the social development public annual report, you need to bring your overnight bag, because from here we drive to Caledon to sleep there for the hearing on Wednesday, which is the 19th. From Caledon, after the hearing of Caledon, we drive to George and sleep in George on the 19th. The public hearing in Caledon is on the 19th. After that hearing, we don't come back to Cape Town. We drive to George for the hearing on the 20th, which is Thursday. After the hearing in George on Thursday, we drive back home. So we will be done with the hearings. That is the arrangement for traveling.
Okay, you got that.
Chair, can I ask, what is the time that these hearings will take place? And is it scheduled of such a nature that the public will be able to attend?
Initially, we wanted to schedule the hearings for afternoons, like around 5 to 7, because that is the time when everyone is back from work. But now, due to load shedding, we could not, because there is no guarantee whether we are going to get generators, and we don't want to be in a dark hall. So all the public hearings now have been scheduled from 9 until 1 o'clock in all the areas because of load shedding. We must just hope that we will have input from people. They will come during the day.
So, Chair, do I need to give you my traveling list again, because I've communicated that to you. So I'm on the 12th. I'm working till 9 o'clock with the by-election. So I won't be traveling with the team, but I will meet you in Worcester in time for the hearing. For the for the hearing on the 18th for Caledon, I will drive up to Caledon and I'll stay over with the group on Caledon on the 18th, and I will drive back to Cape Town on the 19th because I've got something with the Premier on the 20th.
So you won't be in George?
I won't be in George.
No, that's fine. You just table an apology.
Yeah.
That's right.
Cool.
That's covered. I think that is the issues. And that is the end of the meeting. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
And Nomonde, thank you to you.
And thank you to you.